welcoming remarks because we have a special guest with us. We'll hear a little bit more about her when Jim gives his report for the governance committee, but Margot Argelis is our to-be-elected student representative. And lest I forget, toward the end of the meeting, I want to take this time to thank Linda Gale for her year with us. Linda just received a wonderful award, top scholarship award from the Scholarships for Scholars as she heads off to college in the fall. So congratulations on that. Yeah, and she got to give the valedictory address to our little group on this. And so it was very nice to realize that I actually knew one of these people who was getting these special scholarships. But we have a little something for you, Linda.
Thank you.
Now, you don't get to leave until the meeting is over.
Oh, yeah, believe me, couldn't miss a minute.
Here we go.
Well, thank you.
This gold library card is hereby awarded to Linda Gale.
Linda, see me after and I'll tell you how to use it.
Oh,
That's nice.
You can actually use it.
We have a separate version that can be used.
Does she get a donut every time she signs? Okay, Skip is stuck in traffic, but he'll be here in the next 10 minutes and asked us to get underway. I was going to have him introduce, but Joanna Doty is our branch manager here at Revere Beach. It's a beautiful library. I was intending to be here for the opening and couldn't make it, so I'm glad to be here and tour through, and you can help us tell us a bit about it.
Yes. So I can come stand over here so people don't have to crane their necks quite as much. Hi everyone, I am Joanna Doty. I am the branch manager of the Riviera Beach Library. Welcome. You guys are here on our very auspicious anniversary of being open for 3 weeks officially today. So it has been a whirlwind. But first, to share a little bit about myself, I've worked with Anne Arundel County Public Libraries for about 8 years. I started at the Edgewater branch as a library associate, and then I moved into the programming outreach department in headquarters. I've also worked at the Odenton Library as one of the librarians and at the Severn branch as the assistant manager before I started here as the branch manager in February, just a few months before we opened on April 25th. And in the 3 weeks we've been open, we've been very busy. We have had over 3,000 visitors in our first 3 weeks. We have created over 1,000 library cards. I wrote down the stats because I knew I was going to forget some of them. Have had over 400 attendees for our early literacy programs. We haven't started our full Storytime programs until our community festival that will be this Saturday, May 18th. But while early voting and primaries was happening, we were doing some programs out on the floor and have had over 400 people attend already, even for those. And we have already been a polling place both for early voting and for primaries. So it has been quite an experience. Also, right before we opened on April 19th, we did a Chromebook giveaway out on our patio. We gave away 86 Chromebooks that day and also signed up 48 people for library cards even before we opened.
How do you spell it?
Thank you all and welcome to our brand new library.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions for Johanna? Okay. Let me ask if there are any additions or corrections to the minutes of the March 21st board meeting. Hearing none, then the minutes will be approved. And before I call for public comment, let me note we also have 2 other guests from the Staff Association, Taylor Severn and Mark.
Fran Taylor.
Fran Taylor, oh.
From Severn.
From Severn. Okay, and Mark Beard from Revere Beach. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Are there any members of the public who wish to comment on any issue or address any concern? Then none. We'll be on to hear from Mr. Estep and the proper introduction of our new member of the board. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have pretty much nothing but good news to pass on today. It's a delight to actually be chair of the committee today, I have to say. Thank you, Skip. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How would you guys like to go? We can go follow it here, or we can go, we'll get Margot in with the team, whatever works for.
Go ahead and get Margot into the team.
All right, well, it is my distinct pleasure to say that we went through the interviewing process for our student board member once again. Thank you to Ms. Gale, who joined our merry band to go through the conversations. And I am delighted to say that she was the silver medalist in last year's interviewing, but she is indeed the gold medalist in this year's. In this year's interviewing, Ms. Margot Argeles from my son's school, Severna Park High School. Yes, he's already graduated, so he won't be in your hair, I promise. Just an outstanding resume, one like I've never seen before, a great interview, and really a talented young woman who I think will bring a great new dimension, following in the significant footsteps of Ms. Gale and the work she's done in this past year. But everybody please say hi to Margot. She was unanimously approved in our little screening committee, and then she was unanimously approved in the actual governance committee.
So does she need to be formally elected by us?
She needs to be formally elected by the board, yes, sir.
Your committee is making the motion?
We are absolutely
don't?
making the motion.
Okay, then we do not need a second.
Do not.
Any discussion? All in favor? Very good, thank you. You are elected, and whether formally you're a member yet, you should feel free to participate in today's meeting. Okay, Jim, continue.
I have more news. We were very fortunate in that a candidate to take over for you next year, Chair, has stepped up and graciously accepted the offer to do so. So it is my pleasure to let everyone know that Ms. Demita McDonald will be the board chair in next year's library board, but she will also, thanks to the graciousness of Ms. Simmons, be taking over as first vice chair in our next segment. So.
No, that's good. So I'll be serving as chair until this meeting next year.
Correct, sir.
When we would pass that along, and it'll be a great pleasure to work with Demita. So that's another motion that's coming from the committee.
Yes, sir.
All in favor?
Aye.
You're it.
Congratulations.
She's resigning already.
I'm also delighted to say that our current team members are very interested in staying with us for another term. We will work out who will be the next directors, once again following in the footsteps of Mr. Lemke and Ms. Summers next year, but we will have that worked out by next committee meeting, so we'll bring that to the board.
So the current officers are continuing with the exception of the first
Correct.
vice chair.
Unless Ms. Ellis knows something that she hasn't told. Okay. Then yes.
Okay, very good. Then I take that as a motion from the committee, and all in favor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Anything further from the committee?
No, sir, that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any objections to the items on the consent agenda? Well then, hearing none, I move that all of the items on the consent agenda be approved. Would there be a second?
Second.
Thanks, Jim. Then all in favor of the consent agenda items? All right. Thank you. So we should then move straight to reports of officers and liaisons. I should say, I have just a couple of words to say because I had an opportunity to join Cedric and Skip and Kathy in meetings both with the county executive and then subsequently with the county council. And they got to hear the presentation for the budget requests, special budget requests, including an additional $300,000 for equity adjustments and salaries. And they didn't say no. So we'll have to hear what comes. But I want to thank all of you who attended and testified in town hall meetings. All of these things help. And I heard once again that we had better representation than the school board, and that seemed to be good. But maybe that won't happen when Jeremy gets elected to the school board. Yeah, I think it's time to turn to Kathy Belcher for the treasurer's report.
Hi. On May 13th, Skip addressed the county council concerning the fiscal year 25 county executive recommendations, which included $992,000 in market rate adjustments, 3% COLA, which is cost of living adjustment, and funds for the expansion of the Discoveries Library at the Mall, totaling $673,000. Skip requested the additional market rate adjustments of $302,000 and several mission-critical staffing needs. The council will make its final budget decision on June 14th. For April 2024 financial report, we are expected to receive and expend approximately 83% of our budgeted revenues and expenditures respectively. To date, we have received 84% of total revenues with no major variances noted. Also, we have spent 82% of the budgeted expenditures for fiscal year 2024. Membership and dues spending is above budget, but overall spending is expected to be within budgetary funding. No other major variances are noted at this time. Any questions?
All right, sounds like a good report, once again. Skip, for your report and your team.
Okay, so first of all, we didn't have an executive team meeting this week. We've been scrambling to try to stay above water on a lot of fronts. So if anybody on my team has a report for today, just weigh in just a minute when I finish. I want to just take a minute to thank Simona for being our vice chair for several years. Simona has been, I've known her since I was working in libraries in the 90s here in Maryland. And then I was thrilled when she was actually on my selection committee when I was hired in 2010. And she always said she'd be happy to be that vice chair, but she didn't want to be the chair. So, but at any rate, I just want to thank you for your years of service. It's been great to have you as a friend and as I always say when we're meeting in library conferences, I tell everybody, she's my boss. You know? She and all of you are my boss. So thank you for everything.
Let me add to that. I should have done that earlier, but one of the other quality or characteristics that I've very much appreciated is your sense of humor and goodwill. It's been a pleasure working with you, and especially as we teamed up and lost our CEO here.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And you'll be with the board for a couple more years, I'm sure, because you're
I
not
thought I was slipping off.
No, you still, I mean, as long as you still have some of your third and final term to live out. So I would like to add to the comments made about the budget. I went last night and testified to county council up at Linthicum Elementary School, after on Monday testifying with Chris and Cedric and Kathy directly in great detail in council chambers. But last night was my little 1-minute speech, which I give to the mainly for the audience there and anybody who's watching it on the local access television, because I see it as important to sort of spread the word of what our needs are, to kind of keep visible for our elected officials. They do approve our budgets, so it's really important. I am pleased to say that Linda has offered to testify next Wednesday when the public hearing is held in council chambers, and so I'm stepping aside so that you can do that, Linda. Thank you for doing it. The in Cedric's and Coben's and my discussions with the budget analyst, and then last week I talked to Chris Trumbauer and Stuart Pittman about our budget and about this $300,000 that we need to get all the way to the market adjustments. Based on all those conversations, I am confident that we're going to be able to get all of our staff 100% to market with this next budget year. I don't know exactly how that's going to be done. I don't know where they're going to look under the sofa cushions to find that small change of $300,000, but they came up with an extra $500,000 last year because the county executive had proposed $500,000. So they came up with the extra $500,000 to make it a full $1 million, added to the 5% and 3% COLA and merit last year. So last year, the increase to our base of our salaries was $1 billion in COLA and merit plus $1 million in market adjustment. And that got us essentially about halfway to where we need to be, where our staff need to be. When PRM redid the study last fall, essentially our COLA and merit of our county had outstripped our peers. I think the average was 4 or 5% around other library systems and other county governments and so on. So with us getting 8%, that pushed us ahead a little bit. And so when the reevaluation was done of where our staff salaries were, we had come ahead even more than just that $1 million. I would like to say that I think it was 237 staff members out of roughly 280 or 290 last year received the COLA, the merit, plus the market adjustment. This year, no merit is being recommended for our staff because, first of all, it's a really tight budget year for a lot of reasons. But all staff are going to get the 3%, and then 228 staff will get the market adjustment. With that, it puts us right where our staff should be, not the best paid of library staff for our peers, but substantially in the middle, on the leading edge actually of where we should be. And the way we've done the analysis is if for example you have 20 years of experience as compared with someone with say 5 years of experience in the same job, those years of experience are accounted for, and it creates equity throughout our system so that person at 20 years is going to be essentially 15 years ahead of the person with 5 years. We also, Cindy Thorne in our Human Resources Department looked at every single staff member's resume to figure out, and this was a year and a half or 2 years ago when she looked at all those, to determine if they had experience in their current job prior to coming to our library system. So let's just say you have 5 years with Anne Arundel County Library in a certain position, but you had another 5 or 10 years in a previous job. It all counts toward your experience, so that we create real good solid equity all throughout our system and get our staff up to where they should be. So are there any questions about this? I know we've talked about it a good bit before, but I just wanted everybody to have that understanding.
Just a quick question. Do you have anything for promotion in place? Or is it always recommendation where you just move up the ladder?
So I'm not familiar with the term promotion in place. We do a lot of internal promotion of people into new positions. So let's just say that you're a library associate, for example, which requires a bachelor's degree, and you have spent the last 2 or 3 years working and you've now got a master's in library science. You now are eligible to go into several positions that require that master's in library science, and if you compete and win that promotion, you'll be moved in at the higher salary.
Well, promotion in place means basically if you choose not to go to another position, but you can get some additional merit for you have to work above your responsibilities. You can't just be granted that.
I would say we don't do that. The merit pay that comes every year is not an automatic thing. I mean, pretty much just about everybody gets a merit increase. The COLA happens to everyone, and plus the COLA moves the salary scale. And especially since the PRM study, we've moved both the bottom and the top of the salary scale. But every year when, pretty much since the Great Recession of 15 years ago, we have tracked with the non-represented employees. So, and basically what that means is the county has about a dozen unions, and those are contracts that get negotiated. I believe that each county executive and county council for all these years that I've been here has provided a COLA and a merit that is essentially the same as what gets negotiated by the unions, and therefore we've gone up each year. I shared a document with staff which shows that history, which I will share with the board after this meeting.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Skip?
Any of my team that has anything that you would like to bring up? Okay.
Well, I'll just say something on behalf of our communications office. We've all just gotten the latest library happenings. And some of us had the opportunity to be at the annual staff meeting and to watch and hear the paperback writers who were on the cover, including our very own Kathy here. But it's a delight, and if you get an opportunity to hear them, if you haven't already, take advantage of it. It looks like there's a schedule of events on pages 12 and 13, so. But maybe you get to see them at next year's staff meeting?
It won't be during the general meeting part of the morning, to my knowledge. Kathy, do you know, is there?
I think we're gonna be one of the afternoon sessions,
Okay.
but we'll have 3 shows, so come in addition.
Okay, well, it's a lot of fun. So, thanks for this good library happenings. Christine?
And I have one other item
Yep.
to mention, and I just shared this information with library staff on our intranet called Eliza. The Glen Burnie Library Project, a few weeks ago, we learned of an opportunity to potentially have that library project in a rented space in a 30-year lease. And it would expand the library building from a 2-level, 40,000 square foot building to a 1-level, 56,000 square foot building. It would allow us to take the headquarters annex that is currently in the capital plan with the Millersville project and move it into this project. So we would keep the 8,000 square feet of the Cultural Resources Archaeology Lab. The headquarters annex would be moved over there and it would be 12,000 square feet. And the library part of that, instead of being 32,000 square feet, would be about 36 or 37,000 square feet. Now, there's a feasibility study being done right now that the Department of Public Works has hired its architect to do that feasibility study. We're within a few weeks of getting the results of that, but it looks very promising. It's located in the general vicinity of where the existing Glen Burnie Library is. And I think most of us, such as Kathy and Rudy and I, who have worked in lots of libraries, would say that a single-level facility has a lot of advantages. We have certain things at the Odenton Library, which is our only 2-level library, that make it, it's more difficult to staff because you got to have people on both levels. A lot of your square footage is taken up with stairwells and elevators. So we're very excited about this and expect to be able to make an announcement about that project maybe a few weeks, maybe a month or 2 down the road.
Good news. The report from the foundation board representatives. Demita, is that you? Okay.
So we all, of course, have the report, the full report in the board book for this week. So just looking ahead at the foundation board annual meeting, it's going to be taking place on May 29th. That's where we'll do the review of the proposed slate of officers, board reappointments, and appointments of new members. We've got updates about some of our fundraising events and campaigns. Thank you to all who participated in the Bay Breezes and Books here in Pasadena. It was a smashing success with $9,600 raised from ticket sales. and almost 150 guests filled this branch, which is absolutely beautiful. If you haven't had a chance already to walk through, definitely would suggest you do so. It's an absolutely wonderful library branch for the county. We also had a very successful library giving week held at the beginning of April. It raised $49,864 from 366 donors, and we had 126 new donors, which is fabulous. Looking ahead for some of our fundraising events coming up, we've got the Read the Book hosted by our friends at Fern Brewing, who will be able to raise funds for the library. So that'll be on June 8th. So they'll have a special brew just specifically for this fundraiser. So if you are able to take part of it, we definitely would appreciate it. Read Between the Wines is coming back on June 30th, and that'll be at Great Fox Winery again. So the tickets are going to be on sale pretty soon on the foundation website. We also have our Foundation Board year-end celebration board meeting taking place on June 18th. And that's where there'll be a formal invitation for library board trustee members to attend as well. So stay tuned for a formal invitation. And then finally, for the Love of the Library, previously announced, is going to be taking place on September 27th. Of course, this is our largest library fundraising event, and so definitely appreciate all who are able to participate in that. The early bird tickets are going on sale in June. But sponsorships are available now. And I know in the past we've had a challenge for trustees to be sponsors and partners for the Love of the Library. So if anyone's able to commit to that, that would be wonderful. That's the end of the report.
Okay, Shani, anything that you want to add?
No, we got it covered.
Okay, got questions? All right, thank you. Skip has one more thing.
Yeah, I don't think it has been mentioned here, but this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. is Community Day here at Riviera Beach Library. I don't know if I want to put Mark on the spot, but is there anything you would want to say about this? I mean, you guys are really ramped up for it, right?
We are. We've got, I believe we're gonna have some snowballs here. Different representatives from the community, some people from Rookies High, the county historian, all sorts of people are coming. I will be singing and dancing at 10:30. I don't know if that sweetens the deal. Be sure to bring your earplugs. My singing is a violation of the Geneva Conventions, but Ms. Ember and I have it all planned out. We're doing a special music and movement. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
Airbrush tattoos.
Airbrush tattoos, thank you, yes. One of them, we were experimenting with them, they put one on me, it is gone now, but I had to scrub and scrub and scrub to get it off. So do get an airbrush tattoo, but no, it's gonna stick with you for a while. And face painting. So, yeah, it's gonna be so much fun.
Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you, Chris.
Okay. Reports from standing committees. Finance and Audit, Kathy Belcher once again.
The Finance and Audit Committee, we discussed and approved the 3 consent agenda items that you have just approved. End of report.
Okay, good.
Support
Any questions for Kathy? Then Human Resources and Diversity Committee, Sandra?
I'm gonna ask Mrs. Holloway to take over.
Oh, okay.
Hi, everyone. So we talked about a few things at the meeting that I just wanted to share with you all so that you were familiar. There's some operational changes coming up that we've been working on. I wanted to just share them with you and then give you a chance to answer questions. The committee had a few questions. So one of them is that starting September 1st, we will be closing the branches at 8 instead of 9 on Monday through Thursday. I have a whole page of the reasoning behind this, but I'll just give you some insights about it. Ever since I started this job about 8 years ago, the staff have been telling me that between 8 and 9, it is ghost town. It is really quiet, really quiet. And from working in the branches for years, it's true. There sometimes will be people in the meeting room, and then they will leave at 8:45. But other than that, it's pretty quiet. And so that, I don't like the idea that the branches are sitting empty, but the staff is there, right, just waiting for the customers to come in. So when we closed early for a while for COVID and we were gonna reopen again and extend our hours back to 9 o'clock, we talked about it, is now the time to make this, change to 8? And after talking about it, we're like, you know what, we need to see what's gonna happen. Are we gonna go back to normal? What's normal gonna be, right? How is COVID gonna impact our busyness, how the meeting rooms are used, the virtual meetings, the virtual programs, all that. And we found so here we are, 4 years later, and we're still really, really slow between 9 at night. A lot of people are taking advantage of having virtual meetings. Meeting rooms are still used sometimes in some locations, but they are also often empty. The 8 to 9 hour is 6.2% of our open hour times, 8 to 9, Monday through Thursday. It's about 1% of our traffic. The Discovery's Library at the mall already closes at 8 because the mall closes at 8, and they pretty consistently have our highest visitor count. So closing at 8 isn't hurting them. I also looked around at the other systems just to see what other library systems are doing in the area, and they all close at 8 except for Howard County closes at 9, and Martin Luther King, their one Martin Luther King branch in DC closes at 9. Everything else closes at 8. We've been moving a lot of our programs earlier, like our children's programs. You've heard Skip say we are doing a lot more programs in the evenings and weekends for people who are working, and what's happening is doing the programs at like 5:30 or 6 is working great because people can come on the way home. They don't have to go out again. So that kind of aligns where I don't think closing at 8 will impact. That's most of our reasoning. By moving the staff, so right now when staff work night shift, they work 1 to 9. So we will have them work 12 to 8. And that actually will really help us a lot because it will give us more coverage for middle of the day, for lunch hours, for outreach that we need to do during the day, because it gives us that extra hour of overlap. And then just because I was curious, I asked HR to calculate for me, how much is it costing to staff hourly, not career, because that kind of just goes in, in the wash, I guess, but the hourly staff from 8 to 9 at night. So just the hourly staff from 8 to 9 at night is $46,000. Now, we're not gonna save that money because we're still gonna have more, right? But we're gonna move their hours to adjust it, and I can use that staff when we actually need them, because a lot of that staff, they're at the service desk waiting for customers to come in. They're not doing story time. So I think it's really the best decision to make the best use of our facilities and our staffing. So any questions?
When is this effective again?
It would start September 1st. Our window for booking meeting rooms is 60 days, so I want to make sure that we give customers enough notice. So yeah, that's what we're looking at. Yeah.
So I would just like to add that one thing that we are looking into is we have some of the one thing that I kind of held out on making this change for a while because meeting room usage was something, a lot of times people wanted their meetings and they were taking their meetings right up until 8:30 or 9. We are looking into which of our libraries, and we think there's maybe 6 or so of them, that could accommodate a meeting being held after hours when the staff have gone home and they simply are able to not go into the rest of the building but are able to use the meeting room and then just leave. I don't know if either you or Rudy can talk to how that might work and anyone.
Yes, that's the rest of my report.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes, so the other thing we talked to the committee about is how that would work. Skip and I have been talking about that for a long time. And Queen Anne's County does it, and Rudy, when he worked in Fairfax, he shared with us that they also do it, and it works well. The way it would work is for instance, we can do it here at Riviera Beach. We can only do it at the libraries where you can close off the main part of the library, and so the customers would have the meeting room and the restrooms. They wouldn't have access to the whole library, and then when they're done at the end of the night, they would go out that door. So they would come before the library closes, and then when the alarm is set, the main part would be locked, and the alarm would be set on the main part, and then they just go out the door. So we don't have to give codes, we don't have to give keys. So we're working with risk management, we're working with the fire marshal, we're looking at the setup of the branches for the locks and the emergency exits and the lighting at the exits and all of these things to look at each facility to make sure it can work. The ones that we're looking at doing this are Broadneck, Crofton, Edgewater, Oakton, Riviera Beach, and Smyrna Park. Those are the 6 libraries, 2 in each region, that are set up that we could do this. So still some things to work out, but I think it's gonna work. And that would be also thinking about like the PR aspects. It's always hard to take something away, right? Is if we take something away, we're also giving something. We also sometimes have after-hours programs. We have always had after-hours programs with Skip's permission. So we still sometimes will have after-hours programs, the escape rooms, the lock-ins, stuff like that.
The after hours would be later than 9 o'clock potentially?
Yes. So the after-hours usage, yes, good question, would be 8 to 11, Monday through Thursday, and 5 to 11 on Friday and Saturday. So I had thought about trying to do it like Sunday morning, but that doesn't work because we need to have them in the branch while it's still open in order to lock up and whatnot. So that would be a pilot, then after 6 months, we would look and see, how's it working out? Are we having any problems with people not taking good care of the building, or, I don't know, setting off alarms, or trying to get into, anything like that. Also, is there demand for it? I don't really know, because we've never done it before. So I want to do 6 months, and we'll just keep a close eye, get feedback from the staff, how's it working, are there any issues, and then see, if we want to keep doing it. So, any questions about that?
May I ask a question?
Of course.
So if they were gonna book the room for after hours, they would have to have the start time when the library is open. So from like 7 to 9:30 would be fine, but they couldn't do it from like midnight to 3 a.m.
Correct,
Okay.
because they have to be here while the library's
Okay,
still
yeah.
open. So let's say we're closing at 8, we would have a requirement that they would be here by 7:45 or 7:30.
That was just one of the things the staff had thought about, like what if someone's coming in here for like, rave at the library or something?
No, and they still have to abide by our meeting room policy that we have, although I'm gonna make some tweaks to it, and I'll share that with you in our next full meeting, because right now it says the meeting rooms are only available during operating hours, so, we'll make some changes to that, but no. And we're gonna add some lighting and things like that to make sure that everything is safe, because that's the other thing staff have told me.
Right.
Just to make sure it's safe, which of course we all wanna make sure it's safe as well. Any other questions? Yeah.
Tim,
Any concern about the optics of reducing hours right when school starts? I mean, we're going from shorter hours in the summer, then we're open, or we have more access when school, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, school's back and we're closing earlier.
So we don't have less, we don't have some Sundays in the summer, but they
Yeah.
start again when school starts.
Right.
So we're actually adding Sundays
Yeah.
when school starts.
But we're going from 9 to 8 right when school starts, when kids might
True.
need to be there late for homework or else.
And I guess what I'm saying is statistically, they're not.
Yeah.
And that is, we're gonna have to talk to the public about it, but they're really not there.
I feel like I'm part of the 1%. I think that so many times I'm racing at 8:59 because of some 5th grader who realized he needed a book for school, so.
So now you'd be racing at 7:50.
Yeah.
We do have the Wi-Fi in the parking lots that we still have
Yeah.
from COVID, and we are beefing up our Chromebooks at Brooklyn Park, trying to make sure people still get the access that they need. But the libraries are just used differently now, they really are.
We could survey across the table.
I'm not here at 9.
It's a little late.
Yeah.
Just thinking out loud, about the services that patrons can take advantage of without necessarily the need for a staff member. Like right now, you can check out a book without a staff member. You can take advantage of printing services. You can come in and use a study carrel. I mean, I can come in and do almost anything that I normally do, aside from programming and some other things. So just trying to think creatively, is there a way to think about, I don't know, I just kind of have this abundance mindset of like, it would be awesome if we were open all the time, rather than like be the, it would be cool if we were like, no, Anne Arundel, they're open till 11, like what? How do they do that? So I don't know if there's creative ways, I mean, if we're able to do meeting rooms, is there, and I realize it opens in all kinds of security and other concerns, but I don't know, I would love to kind of think through ways in which we can continue to provide services, for anyone at any time, and I realize so much of it is now online, and like, it's a lot easier than it was even a few years ago for a lot of things, but, I'm worried about the optics of saying, even though we can say, look, we're adding this, but I'm not sure how that's gonna be perceived. So,
You're right.
That's
I mean,
my-
we've talked
yeah.
about this, for sure. We've talked about this. I think the optics of empty buildings is also not that great. I want to use our facilities and our staff well. So that's how I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
When they're telling me that they're bored because they are just
Right.
sitting there.
Right.
But go ahead, Samantha.
I'm fortunate, I'm taking the other side because I was in this position for years and years where I was providing service and I had to flip-flop service because, you don't get extra money. And so I always would look at the data before we would close or change the hours. And like you said, you're gonna revisit after 6 months. And I think it's an indirect benefit to the staff, at least they think you're listening to them. And they're not gonna get a whole lot of money, but this might be a small way of showing them that you appreciate their idea. That's just my thought. I'm not trying to confront anyone.
Yeah, no.
Having,
The hours wouldn't be a pilot, right, Kathy?
yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess if it was horrible results that we weren't intending, we
She
could
just said, she just
I
said
mean,
we'll revisit.
You know,
I
I really think, very few people have said to me, 9 o'clock's too late, I need to get home early.
Yeah, right.
That's not really what they're saying. They're saying, this is not when our customers are here.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't feel like a good use of our time. So when they tell me that, and I can change the schedule and they can use their time better,
Right.
that seems like a responsible change. But I hear what you're saying, because we
I
are
understand.
worried about the optics, like we want to spin it. Not spin it in a bad way, but show the advantages and the reasons why we're doing it. We also have talked about trying to be open on Sundays, but we can't, that's like next year's budget request. And we need more funding for it, because I had Cedric run the numbers, and it's like $65,000 we can add Sundays through the school year, or through the whole year. Because I don't like that we're only open on Sundays during the school year, because libraries aren't just for students, they're for
Right.
everyone. So I want to change that, but we would need more money and more staff to do that.
Well, one thing I would like to add is that when you first said that, I was a little shocked because for a person who works and commutes. But I thought about it, I'm like, no, I'm never there at between 8 and 9. I've done meetings there that ended at 8. And at Severn, I don't always feel safe. Severn, like when you said that they would be late, open late at Odenton, because I can get, that's the next closest branch. I'm like, okay, Odenton's kind of back, kind of by itself, but I don't always feel safe at Severn, and I know there were issues with the bathroom. I've seen drug deals outside, not that it had anything to do with the library, but Severn's not the safest place to be at any time. And so, and I love that it's across from the base. And being a military widow, it's like, what were they thinking when they built bases? That they built all this crap outside of bases instead of things that people really needed. But I've never served in the military. I've just been married to a person who was in the military. So I understand where Tim is coming from. But one of the things I would also advocate is those services that are online. So as you close services, I don't know if Rudy or other people or how we can market the services and getting books and being able to read ebooks and audio books to make sure that the public, I think the public is already aware, but just to kind of bump that up a little bit, because I keep forgetting about, what's the thing?
Libby.
Yeah, I keep forgetting about Libby, and then I'm like, oh, I can listen to this in my car, because I'm old school. I still get the CDs. I'm listening to one right now, and I forget I can actually listen to Libby on my phone, and half the time I can't remember my password. It's like, another password I got to keep up with. But I think as you do that, I would bump up just to let the public know, about the 6 branches. I'm glad about that. And, what services are online that people don't have to come to. So if they need a
Yeah.
book late at night, and having more interactive books for young readers where they're read to other services, that fit within the budget.
Yeah, thank you, I agree. I mean, a lot of times when Christine sends things out, it says, but when we're closed, we're always open online.
I like that.
But I mean, your point is really well taken. We are thinking about that and the optics of it, because when you see an announcement that the hours are changing, you don't automatically know all these reasons that I just listed.
Yes.
I talked to Natalie Eddington, who is my counterpart at BCPL, and they never went back to 9 when they reopened after COVID. And she said they stayed at 8, and she said they were kind of worried that the public was really gonna complain, and she said they got very few complaints. So that made me feel a little bit better. I obviously don't like when people complain, but if we do get the complaints, then we'll explain, why we're making these changes.
So,
If it's an
Shani?
optics question, is there a way we can do it sort of in August versus September when school is open?
I mean, we could, or we could do it later. I mean, we do, to me, it kind of balances that we start Sundays in September. That's kind of the balance.
I agree. I don't think even the people, typically, the people using us from 8 to 9 aren't school students, other than the occasional parent running in to get a book. It might be a meeting room. So I don't see as much of a connection, but I could be wrong.
I mean, the other thing, I think I should bring, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I should bring this up because one of the things the managers have shared with me is some branches, not all, do have unhoused people there from 8 to 9. And we are concerned about that because we know we're a safe place for people who are unhoused and they like to be at the library, especially when it's really cold or really hot. So we're gonna make sure that we talk to those folks, let them know this change is coming, get some navigators in, get some resources for them. At Annapolis, they told me they have to get back to the shelter by 8, so they don't stay till 9. But I know at Severn and a couple other places, Glen Burnie, they said they do have unhoused people staying between 8 and 9. It's a handful, it's 5 or 6, but we're gonna be sensitive to that and offer those resources to them, so it's not just all of a sudden, well, guess what, closed 8 now, bye. No, we're not gonna do that, we'll make sure that we try to give them some support.
And the other thing I was gonna say, just in terms of, any public perception issues, just saying that this is data informed, right? Like, so we're looking at how libraries are actually being used during that time. And if it's, if we're saying that it's actually not used very well during that time, that it makes sense. We're not just making a decision because it is convenient for the staff or the libraries. It's because that's how our patrons are using the library.
And staff's hours will not be cut.
Correct.
I want to make sure that's
No.
really clear as well.
This is shifting.
Correct. Right. If you think of any other questions, I'm always happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Don't go away, because I have a question for you in just a minute. We are about to go into closed session. We've got 2 issues. One is the appointment of counsel for labor relations for an attorney, and the other is to review Skip's work plan. Now, some of this material was sent to you about an hour before the board meeting, and some of it was sent yesterday. So Skip has extra copies of all of that. And the reason I'm asking Kathy to stand by is I want to convene in closed session and then have an opportunity to come back because there's a presentation, the Public Library Association presentation that Christine and Kathy were going to present. That looks like it's going to be a bit long, though.
We're gonna rush through the.
How long do you expect?
I mean, we can do a shortened version.
Yes.
If that's what you want us to do, or
Well,
we can do another.
I don't know how long we're going to be in closed session, but why don't you tell us how long a reasonably quick presentation would take, so we can think about that as we decide.
We can do a summary on the 20-minute side.
Oh, okay, good.
That's good.
Yeah, we may be able to do a little more, but I think otherwise we'd end up postponing it to September.
We'll do a condensed one, too.
Okay, good. Thank you. So then I'd like to make a motion to move us into closed session, to convene in closed session under the Open Meetings Act, Section 83-305B1, which is, which I should read, and I have it in front of me. There we go. to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, and performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom the public body has jurisdiction, any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. So both of these items would fall under that provision. May I have a second? Thanks, Jim. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. So we have still here, Margot, is she still here?
No, she's not.
Oh, she left? Okay. I was gonna invite her to stay, but Skip should stay, and Cedric, if you'll stand by, we'll call you in when we talk about the attorney.
But Skip needs to know that in private, Lemke and I are going to make a motion to remove Skip's disparaging remarks about Odenton stairs and elevators. All right, that was her.
Ooh, I didn't mean it.
Now, if you have some sort of size envy or something, Skip, because of Odenton's massiveness, I understand, but that was really mean commenting on our elevators and
That
stairs.
hurt us deep in the heart.
I'm sorry. I'll have Donna remove it from the minutes.
So Joey, what happened?
So I have no idea what happened with the projector earlier. My only idea is that it probably overheated. It's the first time it's been used.
Oh.
Oh.
So
someone's
we
been-
switched to the smart board, so we've got that figured out. But yeah, it just wouldn't turn back on.
Oh, so we do have them back on the screen.
So,
Yeah, they're in
so
the corner.
they never left. It was just that we couldn't.
But they,
Um,
but they could hear us.
Yeah, they could hear us fine, we weren't able to see them just because the projector wasn't turning on. But it didn't affect any communication. But then for the breakout room, for closed session, if everyone who's joining online, if you could, there should be, I'm going to assign you to the closed session breakout room, and then I'll have you guys also join. I have my phone up showing that closed session sign, so on the live stream, it's only gonna show the closed session sign. They won't be able to see anything because you guys and everyone on Zoom will be in the breakout room. So,
Okay, so just to test it, can you hear us there, Janie Lane, Kathy, Noah?
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you. And who?
Dylan.
Oh, Dylan's on, I didn't
Dylan's
realize.
He's hiding out.
so I'm going to have you guys join the breakout room, and then I'll just make sure it's working.
Laura?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, we have a presentation, can this,
In the main room.
we're already at 5 to 6. Can we do this
Can we-
presentation in,
Sorry.
We need to go back to the meeting room.
So we hadn't gotten back into the main room yet until after you started talking and we were muted and everything, so. They didn't hear.
we are in open session.
Yeah, no, now we are. Nothing was done yet on this end to make it so that we were actually talking to the public or anything.
Oh.
Or talking, we were still muted and not everyone was ready for going back to open session.
Okay. In open session, we approved the appointment of Ms. Burrows as labor relations attorney and approved the work plan of Skip Bald, subject to further revision in September, and rate of pay for our attorney, Jay Creech. So, how short can we make the presentation without wrecking it?
So let me just give some context while Kathy's pulling this up. So her and I did a presentation at the Public Library Association Conference in Columbus in April. And it's about sort of leading with compassion and building a culture of trust and respect. We didn't know what to expect in terms of a crowd. We had over 1,000 people in our session. So
Wow.
we got great participation. So we thought there might be some value in sharing some of it with you. If only to share some of the things that we're doing that we think represent the values that you as a board have created for the organization. So we will zoom through it, so to speak, in just a second.
And I was able to be there, it was amazing. Every chair was filled, I ended up counting, there were 950 chairs in the room, plus like 100 people sitting all around the room. Plus, they did the program virtually the day before, or 2 days before, whatever, and they did that for like a worldwide audience that,
Excellent.
Well, congrats, I'm gonna have to use that.
Was it recorded? Can we look at it later?
Probably not if you didn't register for PLA.
Right.
Oh,
Okay, so
Congrats for getting accepted though.
That's
That's
I've got a
good.
6:30,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna tell them I'm learning late.
you can turn it into a
That's
paper.
So, yes, we're working on that. Says the academic over
Yeah.
here.
Of course you said that, right?
I can't see.
Yes, that's it.
And we looked at the reviews afterwards, and they were all really good, except one person hated it. So it's like, out of 1,000 people, I'll take it.
Okay.
No, you can't please all of the people all of the time.
That's right.
There it is, yes.
All right.
All right, so we're gonna zip through.
Really quick, so I think it's sharing now with the screen on. Sorry, this is just,
You're like a wizard.
I'm trying my best. Yeah.
Keep going to the middle.
It's that middle one, right?
Or you can just.
That one's that, yep.
There we go.
All right, so we won't go through, why are we here, or any of that. We just-
Yeah, is that one it?
To the left.
To the left. Right.
There we go, the last one.
That's it. All right.
All right, so let's just roll through. You don't mind? Okay, yeah, why are we doing this in this wonderful, here's who we are, we all know
You guys
this. And our budget, keep going. So this is why we decided to do this program. We felt like people needed to acknowledge the fact that there is a true crisis of connection. People don't know each other, people don't trust each other. So how can you, as an organization, create a community, both internally and externally, that responds to this idea of division? Go on. Why does it matter? Organization is more productive, people work together better, you retain your talent, and
Yeah, so our for your information, our turnover rate is about 15%. That's an average of our full-time career and hourly staff, and industry standard is about 30%. So we're doing pretty well. I'm happy to share that.
so creating this culture obviously helps with that, as well as customer satisfaction. We knew we wanted to be sure that people understood that the foundation of your organization has to be primed and ready for this kind of culture. So how do you build it into your strategic plan? And then we're gonna go through some of these other pieces in just a second. We talked about our strategic plan and why we felt like that was a good foundation for this kind of an environment. Certainly our commitment to equity, our values, and our vision and purpose.
Yeah, I just talked about, I'm sure you all are familiar with the concept of being a psychologically safe leader, just emphasizing why that is really important, making sure that our staff are comfortable making mistakes, knowing that we're supportive. Consultative leadership, so we talk about things before we make decisions, we work together on things, we are truly focused on being a team and making sure that our team climate is positive. Just found this poster, it's an ALA poster, just really like it. I think that does a really good job listing some of the things that we feel are really important values that we want to support in AACPL intentionally.
So how do you start to do that? Communication's a big part of that, communicating in lots of different ways, communicating often, having relationships with your staff, certainly listen, making sure that you are very clear on creating a safe workplace environment, not just physical safety, but psychological safety, and also not just for your staff, but for your customers.
So then we talked about some big picture strategies for our internal audiences. Some of the first few things that are listed there are from our previous strategic plan, so a lot of you are familiar with that, and we still are doing them. So tailored services, having the branches and the departments make decisions based on what the needs are in their community. Because you know the difference between what's needed in Brooklyn Park and what's needed in Deal and all the way across the county, it's all very different. And they are on the front lines, they know what their customers want and need. And so we don't try to get exactly the same thing. There are some expectations that everybody has to fill, but aside from that, in addition to that, they can be responsive to their community. And then supporting entrepreneurial staff, that they bring ideas to us and we want to hear their ideas. And we let them take chances and try new things. I think that our equity audit is a really good example too of taking this big picture look at what are we doing well, what are we not doing well, what changes do we need to make, what goals do we need to set. Then lists a whole bunch of other things.
Certainly our advocacy around collective bargaining and state legislation, we believe demonstrates a real atmosphere of trust and respect. And that's the salary side. So this picture of Skip testifying at a hearing about our collective bargaining.
And he is the only library director that did that in Maryland. And then some other strategies, again, we can share this PowerPoint if you're interested in looking at all the details since we're kind of doing a quick version for you today. But these are just some of the things that we have done intentionally to let our staff know that we trust them. One of my favorite examples is our intranet is very open. There are some permissions, so somebody can't just take it over and really change everything. But for the most part, there are lots of places where a lot of staff can comment on posts. They can comment, sometimes if there's an HR post, they'll close it, but for the most part, because you have to be careful, but for the most part, people can comment on things, ask questions. When I worked in Prince George's County Library, I missed it so much. They had an intranet, but there it was, and once a week, administration will put something up, period. That was it. Ours is very fluid, it's very participatory, actually, and people can have all kinds of say. And in the 8 years I've been here in this job, I think I've told someone to take down a post once. It's not bad, and that was just because her judgment was a little bit, I was like, But for the most part, they really do pretty well with using good judgment and taking it off the internet if they need to talk about something. And then just little things, $25 gift cards for the Bravos, they're like pat on the backs that we can do. We do drawings, and lots of people do that. Breakfast with the CEO. We always provide talking points to give support to the staff. If we know that they're gonna get tough questions or we're going into something, we will do that for the change in hours for sure, because we wanna be able to explain things, give staff the support to explain things, the affinity groups. We let, well, this is kind of PR, but we let the branches make their own signage because we trust them to do a good job.
With templates.
With templates, I mean, we give them help, right? It's not just go and do it. Like, a lot of this, I had to say, like, we give them guardrails. We don't just say do whatever you want, but within those guardrails and expectations, templates, the design palettes that they need to use, we do trust them. So, okay, within these guidelines, you can make that sign for your program. You don't have to wait for PR to make that for you. And that is not how everyone does it. The foundation credit card has been huge at building trust with our staff. When we got this, so I think y'all know, but the managers and department heads all have a foundation credit card with money loaded on it that they can use to buy supplies for programming, staff morale. They can buy pizza for a staff meeting. We never had anything like that ever before. So we're not like teachers buying stuff with our own money. The managers would buy it with their own money, or we go without, right? And when we first rolled out the foundation credit card, more than one manager said to me, "You mean you trust us?" Yeah, I do trust you with this. Again, we have guidelines for how they can spend the money, right? They can't buy whatever they want, but within those guidelines, we do trust them to spend it responsibly. We haven't had any problem with that. Gotten really well.
And transparency, a lot of some of these things are just about being transparent, sharing meeting minutes, asking for input, just so that people feel open and honest.
And we shared at the convention about the Board of Trustees and the Foundation Board adopting a branch, and there were a lot of questions about that. People were like, really? What? They got to the branches? What? They want to get to the That was huge. I really think it's an innovation that not a lot of boards do. So we were happy to share about that. And then just letting staff be creative. So we put some examples there, the Pride Parade up top, paperback writers on the front of your happenings. I mean, that does take time away from the day-to-day duties that these staff have. We're having rehearsals, but it has been such a morale boost, not just for the people in it, And I can tell you it has been great for that, but also to see your colleagues doing something like that, sharing their talents and working on a project together. And these are just some examples. I think it's really been worth it. When they wanted John at Brooklyn Park, when he wanted to create paperback writers and he had that idea, he was like, do you think it would be okay? Do you think Skip would approve it? Can we use our time this way? You know, and so I think it's been awesome.
Development.
Yeah, exactly. It's been so good.
And then obviously how we treat our customers is a big part of creating this culture of trust and respect. And we knew that in our opinion, showing compassion leads to building healthier communities. So that demonstrates itself in things like revising the code of conduct.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. So when I started this job, the code of conduct had a lot of very specific rules in it, that it was very clear that whenever anything went wrong, they made another rule. So it said things like no staring. No, I'm not kidding. It did say that. Because that was how the reaction was to this is what we need to do then. Well, if this went wrong, we better make a rule against it. If this went wrong, we better make a rule against it. And it got really long and it got really oddly specific. So we changed that all a couple of years ago to say we expect customers to treat each other and the staff with respect. We did add some language last year, which y'all approved, to say very specific things about language that is racist, homophobic, xenophobic, because we really needed some specifics there. But a lot of it is respect the other people in the library with you and respect any reasonable request of staff. And so we're trusting the staff to use their judgment. That does make the staff a little bit nervous sometimes.
Yes.
There were definitely some staff members who were like, but I want to know all the things people can't do. Well, you can't possibly have a list of all the things. I mean, that gets a little bit crazy. So I think that has been a huge step in the right direction, and we looked at a lot of other codes of conduct, and there are still many that are very specific, and I'm really happy that ours isn't that way anymore. I think it's been a big step in the right direction.
You know about most of these other things, but again, meeting the community where they are and addressing their needs in a manner of trust.
The community pantry at the mall, they don't ask for eligibility proof. They just say, do you need these diapers? Well, then here you go.
The biggest question we got, or the biggest gasp that we got, was allowing food and drink at this conference. People were shocked that we would allow food and drink.
Beside themselves.
Just absolutely stunned. But in our opinion, these strategies like self-checkout app, no security gates, the honor system for the pantry, that demonstrates our trust of our customers for their community.
And then the other thing that it's not on this slide, it was on the previous one, but another thing that people also gasped about was allowing sleeping. And we do that within guidelines as well. But if somebody dozes off, they put their head down on the book that they're reading, it's okay. We used to have.
I've done it many times.
Yeah.
Every time I go to
Exactly.
read, I doze off in the
Never
chair.
over here.
But then what I think an unintended consequence of that was the person who put their head down on their book because they were reading, nobody said anything to them. But the person who had been up all night because they were walking and then they decided to, sit down and put their head down, they're the ones that maybe didn't smell very good or had a lot of baggage with them, and that caused these inequities that were not okay. We need to treat everyone with that same trauma-informed lens. So that's what we've been working on, and that was another thing that people were like, what?
Shocked.
You let people sleep? Well, again, we don't let them lay in the middle of the walkway. There are, we had one, I had this recently at a branch where the customer keeps falling asleep at his computer and there are people waiting. So of course, we're gonna tell them you can't do that, right? So there are definitely things that we don't let people do, but we also realize somebody might have been walking all night. And this is their time.
Some grace, right? And then
So-
these are just,
When I turned on my card, it said I'm narcoleptic, so y'all can let me sleep.
Exactly.
Well, that's also a help, yes. So, and it's okay to check on people if they're sleeping, but this has also been a big culture change because it isn't how we used to do it, but we think it's working.
obviously this stuff comes with big challenges. Some people don't like it, some staff don't like it. But that's,
Right, the way
you just need to acknowledge that and try to work through it. And that's it.
That's great.
People came up to us afterwards and said, how do we get our administration to do these things? We really like your ideas. Our administration would never let us do them, so we gave Skip credit. For
Show them the way, lead the way. The sky won't fall when you do things this way.
On Chris's behalf, are there any questions?
Oh, right, yeah.
Congratulations.
Okay.
When you're ready, you can ask for a motion to
Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I
So moved.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Public closed.
All right.
That's so good.
Thank you, everybody.
A lot of stuff.